All right. Sorry about that, folks. Buttons to press, stuff to do. Trying to make sure I've got everything going. Let's see. Okay, so we're recording and we're streaming. All right. YouTube folks everywhere, thanks for hanging out with me this evening. Glad that you were able to tune in. Let's see. Who do we have here? Looks like there may be two of you. Maybe. Okay. All right, let's see. Here we go. So, we're just a couple minutes from kicking off here, and I still haven't finished my dinner, but I guess we'll set that plate over there for now. And I may have to dash out of here for a moment, and yeah, I'm going to do that right now. So I'm going to put this image back on. I'm going to put my headphones down. I'll be back here in just 1 minute. I appreciate you sticking in there for that. And let's see, where's that button at? That's not the one. Let's try this one. There we go. Okay, we're back. I have my cold beverage, and I have my mute. It looks like I want it to. All right, so now I just have to remember to use it. And all right, in the usual routine, if we do have a stall in the stream, so if someone would let me know, that would be very cool. All right. 1 minute to go. We have 20 check-ins from the early bird routine. All right. Get that wetted a little bit and ready to kick this thing in gear. Let's see. Something in front of my script. There we go. I still don't know what we're going to talk about tonight, so I guess we're going to leave it up to the folks on the other end of the radio to help out with the subject material, and we'll figure it out from there. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to come up with a topic every week. Let's see here. Okay, we're good there. I think we're ready to kick this thing into gear. It is 7:30, so let's do this. Good evening, and welcome to the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. I'll be working off the Pine Log repeater this evening, and we are linked in with the following repeaters: Pine Log, McDonough, Sassafras, Lookout Mountain, Jersey, Crawford, Columbus, Somerville, Moreland, Zebulon, and Noonan. Our RF coverage tonight is approximately 31,000 square miles. This net takes place every Thursday evening at 7:30 p.m. I'd like to thank everyone who has made the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net the most expansive and active GMRS network in the country. Your net control tonight is Atlanta 946, WQIR 514. My name is Justin, and I'm located at Studio B here in Woodstock. This is a family-based network, and we'd like to encourage you to get your family involved. We'd love to hear from the kids and the spouses, so don't be afraid to hand the mic over and get them on the air. Once the floor is open, it is permissible for members to address others by name or tactical unit number. Your FCC call sign is only required when you sign in and sign out of the net. When signing in, please speak slowly and clearly as you give your call sign, your tactical unit number, your name, and your location. Let me break. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and read through our early check-ins. If you hear your name, there's no need to check in again, and we'll come to you in the order that we've called. And when I finish that, we'll start taking additional check-ins. So, first on my list, I have Atlanta 295, Scott in Dallas. Scott was in and out with us this evening. Next, I have Atlanta 420, William, who was mobile but on his way home and should be there by now. So hopefully William will be able to talk to us when his turn comes around. That brings me next to Atlanta 104, David in Paulding County. David is going to hang out with us this evening. Thanks for checking in. And we have Atlanta 555, also Dave, from the driveway cooking his American-style hamburgers. We also have Atlanta 299, Steve from Roswell. Steve has some CW activities to engage in this evening, so he's going to be monitoring, but probably not talking. And we also have Atlanta 20, Tom in East Ellijay, also going to be listening in. Tom, I've got you in and out. And we have Atlanta 138, Robert in Auburn, as also in and out. That brings me next to CV Smith, Atlanta 285 in Murrayville. Looking forward to talking with you, CV. And Atlanta 780, Houston in Austell. Looking forward to catching up with you as well, Houston. That brings me next to Atlanta 554, Cherie in Marietta. Also in and out, but thank you for checking in with us this evening, Cherie. It's great to hear from you and enjoy those burgers. Next, I have Atlanta 442, Craig in Ackworth. Looking forward to talking with you, Craig. And that brings me now to Atlanta 417, William in Auburn. William is in and out with us this evening. And Atlanta 102, Mike, right here in Woodstock, is also in and out with us this evening. Let me break. Chattanooga 58, Bill in from the Lookout Mountain Machine is also in and out with us this evening. And that brings me to Atlanta 57, Andrew in Holly Springs. Andrew, looking forward to hearing from you tonight. In Atlanta 410, Glenn in Canton. Glenn, I'm looking forward to talking with you in a little bit. And we have Atlanta 124, Hank in Marietta. Hank, I hope that I'm able to hear you when your turn comes around. And that brings me next to Noonan 25, Joe in Fayetteville. Joe is in and out with us this evening. It was great to hear from you, Joe. And finally on the list, I have Atlanta 26, Flip in Druid Hills. Flip is helping out with the logging this evening, and appreciate that. So that is the end of my early bird check-in list. So let's go ahead and go to our regular routine of check-ins. Zello is still not connected, so we're going to skip the Zello check-ins today. But we're going to go ahead and open up check-ins from any new users or guests. This is anyone who has a GMRS license but is not a member of North Georgia GMRS that would like to check in. Please call net control now. Now, okay, station, I didn't quite catch that. It was a very noisy copy there. So if you want to try to get to a better location and try to check in again, that would be helpful. But at this point, I don't have your information. Net control at this time is going to go ahead and move on. Let's see, where am I at here? I've lost my place. Okay, so we're going to take check-ins from youth members, 18 and under. Any youth members? Also, any new users and guests? Please call net control now. Okay, not hearing any youth check-ins or guests. We're going to go ahead and move on to Pine Log check-ins. Anyone wishing to check in from the Pine Log repeater, please call net control now.
This is 948, WRAR 430, here in Wichita. Good morning now.
This is Jordan from work, checking in and checking out.
All right, there were two stations there that doubled. I heard Atlanta 948, Gary and Woodstock, in and out. The other station I did not hear, so come on back with that check-in. Net control standing by.
This is WRCB 257, Atlanta 76 from Duluth, Georgia, and work, checking in, checking out. Have a good evening.
Okay, David, Atlanta 76 in Duluth, checking in and out from work. I appreciate you taking a break to check in with us. Hopefully you're able to monitor through your work and catch up on all of the goings on this evening. It's great to hear from you, and we'll talk with you again soon. Any other Pine Log check-ins, please call Net Control now.
Atlanta 250, Tim from Canton, checking in and out. Thank you very much.
Net Control acknowledging Atlanta 250, Tim from Canton, checking in and out. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and open up check-ins to any repeater anywhere, including the Pine Log repeater, and any new members, guests, or visitors. Please call Net Control now.
Mike Donna 22, WRCR 952, Tim in Stockbridge on the mobile, checking in. This is noon 29, WRCU 796, Marty in Tyrone. If you could check me in and out, that would be fantastic. We'll hope to stick around next week. Back to next week. Good evening, Net Leader. This is WRKN 464, Atlanta 402, Todd and Cumming. I am checking in and out, and we'll be monitoring a little. This is WRCX 621. That's Chat 6. Coming to you on the Chat 600 repeater.
Chattanooga check-in. Can you come back with your TAC number? I missed that, and also your first name.
First is Ed, as in Mr. Ed the horse on TV. ID is Chat 6.
Okay, all I got was Chat 6. You're cutting out right when you say that. I don't know if it's the mic key or if there's some kind of interference or what's going on there, but that's all I've got. And that's good enough for now. We'll definitely come back to you here in a little bit. We'll get that clarified. So let me go ahead and acknowledge what I have. Let's see. I think I acknowledged Atlanta 250 Tim in Canton. We've got you in the log as in and out. And that brings me next to McDonough 22 Tim in Stockbridge. I've got you in the log, Tim. Looking forward to talking with you. Next on my list is Noonan 29 Marty in Tyrone. Marty, I've got you in and out of the log, so I hope that you have a great evening. Thanks for checking in with us this evening. And that brings me next to Atlanta 402 Todd incoming, also in and out, and hope that you're able to hang out with us as much as possible, Todd. Glad that you took the time to check in with us. And Ed, Chattanooga 6 something, we've got you in the log as well. Do we have any additional check-ins, any repeater anywhere before we head to the top and start this thing off?
172 WRHW 610. Greg, Freeman. Good evening.
Okay, so what I have this round is Atlanta 308, Dan in Marietta. Got you in the log, Dan. And I have Atlanta 77, Steve in Lawrenceville. Thank you for checking in, Steve. Looking forward to talking with you. And we have Atlanta 172, Greg in Bremen. Greg, I didn't catch. Are you in and out, or are you going to stick around with us and talk after a bit? Okay, no answer from Greg, so we're going to leave the log as it is with him checked in, and we'll try him when we get to the end. If he's there, that's great, and if not, that's okay too. So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and bounce back up to the top of the list here, and we'll get started with things. But before we do, a couple of things I wanted to talk about. This week, there have been a couple of very interesting stories. One story in particular involves a group of ham radio enthusiasts who have been able to capture the telemetry data from the Falcon 9 rocket and decode the video from that telemetry data. And they're getting some excellent video shots of the liquid oxygen tanks and some of the other shots that come off of the rocket. I don't know if they're getting additional data, performance data as well, but it seems that if they're getting the video, they're probably getting all of that data. I think that is just absolutely fascinating, and what a cool thing that you can do just by monitoring and receiving radio signals, or doing it with a device called a SDR, software defined radio, and that's a cool thing to play with, because you can see the radio spectrum with those things, and you can see where there are signals in different parts of the spectrum, and you can kind of zoom in and narrow down on them. So it's fun stuff. Let me break. And another very interesting thing that happened this week is the International Space Station had some repairs made to its ham radio equipment. So currently it is in operation. The repeater is functioning, and we're looking forward to a pass overhead this evening at about 8:30 p.m. And I know that Noon and 25 is going to be trying to bounce off of the ISS with some APRS packets. So anybody that has the equipment to monitor, I don't remember the frequency, 145 something, you should definitely try to tune into that and listen in. If you just go online and search for the ISS, you'll find all kinds of stories about what's going on with that and the ham radio equipment that's been repaired this week. So if that's something that interests you, I would encourage you to take a minute and do a little bit of research so that you can get your radio ready for an 8:30 p.m. pass. And that's really about all that I have. We've got some exciting things happening in the world of North Georgia GMRS, but we're just not at a place yet where we can talk about a lot of it. So the Blue Ridge machine is up and on the air, and it is not yet linked, but the linking capabilities are being tested, and we are developing that path as we speak. So we're also looking for some other opportunities for improving that link and doing some research. So that's kind of some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that's going on there, and there's really not much more than that is available to talk about. But I believe we can trust that the man behind the curtain will accomplish great things for North Georgia GMRS. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to Atlanta 295 Scott in Dallas. Scott was in and out with us this evening. He was our first early check-in. Thanks for checking in with us, Scott. It was great to hear from you. And that brings me next to Atlanta 420 William. He was mobile but headed home. William, did you make it to Roswell?
Roger that, Justin. First time out with Scott there was at the radio testing there for him. A little feedback. I'm noticing almost like an ocean wave. The base station. Starting a little static. I didn't know if others are hearing.
Yeah, William, I'm not sure either, and I'm hearing that same kind of a thing with your signal coming and going. I think we've got some atmospheric conditions going on. We've got some solar events that are happening, and I think all of that is coming into play and affecting the performance of our signals this evening. So hopefully I'm readable. I caught most of what you had for us. So I understand that you were doing some ham radio testing. Is that correct?
Roger that. Yes, Scott and I were at the testing there for ham radio license. We took it together there, so great to hear him chime in there, so that was great. I'll keep it short tonight since we are having some radio interference there through conditions there. But just share that my dinner tonight was a nice pork roast that I did, and instead of putting the barbecue sauce on it, I decided to do onions and peppers with a avocado chipotle, and then topping it off with some nice chopped pineapple there. And that added then that sweetness along with that spiciness there. Over.
Ah, you're making my mouth water. That sounds amazing. So very good. Hard to go wrong with a pork roast. I mean, sometimes we'll cut them up into like a chop and have a sort of a. It's not really a pork chop, but we call them pork chops because they're great on the grill that way. And of course, having it roast in the oven or in the crock pot is another great way to enjoy that. I just love that food, that meal. Just about any way you prepare it is always great. Thank you, William, and congratulations on your testing. I hope that went well, and you got your upgrade there. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to Atlanta 104. David in Paulding County. David, how you doing this evening? Having a tough time hearing you, but your signal seems solid. It's just the modulation is low.
I switched back over to sassafras.
Much better.
Better.
Oh yeah, that is much better. Yes, you're crystal clear on sassafras. So come on with your traffic.
I've had my base station up and running, so I can actually chime in on the net. So just glad to be able to actually talk instead of listen. And I actually had a question with current weather. What is the procedure for getting traffic out for an emergency situation?
Well, if you have a true emergency, I would suggest that you call 911 first. But if that, for whatever reason, were unavailable, this reminds me of a story from long ago. Back in my truck driving days, there was a car that had come off of an entrance ramp, and he came off crazy fast and drove right into the tandems on my trailer. Hit my trailer so hard that he blew two of my tires, and then he crashed off into the ditch, and I had to pull over. And in my efforts to call the authorities, I dialed 911 on my cell phone and was told that the 911 center that I got was the wrong jurisdiction for the location that I was in, and that I would have to hang up and call the other 911 center. And they also didn't want to give me a number for that other than 911. So I said, well, if I hang up and I dial 911, aren't I going to get you again? Um, and we went round and round about that. And the gist of that whole thing is that in that particular circumstance, they had multiple 911 centers within a small region, and they didn't have a good way of coordinating amongst themselves. And so my concern is that if we try to use the GMRS network for emergency traffic, um, we're going to we're going to be doing some redundancy where we're not the best at it, and B, we have an opportunity to misdirect or misroute a call. There was a time when one of our members tried to call in on the GMRS network to report a traffic accident on I-85, and so with that being the case, with me hearing him call out on GMRS radio, what am I if I call 911 here in Woodstock for a traffic accident that's all the way down in Coweta County? How is 911 going to even coordinate that when really what he needed to do was put the radio down and call 911? So I think that there are better tools for addressing an emergency situation. But of course, if your GMRS radio is what you're down to, and you have a situation where you need help, then by all means call out for it. But just be prepared that it may not be the most effective way to get help on the way.
I agree 100%. Years ago, we had a tornado hit near our house that took out the cell phone towers. So no one had cell phone capabilities at all. Luckily, we still had a landline at the time, so everyone was coming to our house trying to use the landline, and it got pretty chaotic trying to be the dispatcher for one phone. But that was kind of the thought I had was, say cell phones go down, and you might be able to get a message out to someone and give short information, but not for like a traffic as a relay. Over.
Yeah, and I suppose in a circumstance like that, if GMRS is what you're down to, and that's the tool that's working and available, then by all means use it. I would never suggest that you can't make an emergency call on GMRS, but I would firmly suggest that you try other methods first. But if the cellular towers were down, and that's kind of the point of having our GMRS license for a lot of us, is to have an alternative means of communication. So if the cellular towers are down, or if there was that bombing that happened in Nashville at the AT&T building, that took out a lot of people's phone service for a period of time. These are things that can and apparently do happen. So it's good to have an alternative tool in your bag. But as far as an established procedure, we don't really have one. If you have an emergency, come on the air and declare that you have an emergency. And if somebody's engaged in a QSO, they need to yield to any emergency traffic. And furthermore, if you hear somebody calling on the radio and they've declared an emergency, you need to answer them and help in any way that you can. So, but at the same time, like I say, with that issue with the car accident on 85, 4 counties away from me, there's a very limited amount of things that I can do that can be helpful. For instance, if I were to just call 911 in that circumstance, the 911 operators here in Cherokee County would have probably had a difficult time working out how to coordinate a response in Coweta County. And I didn't even have a mile pole. I didn't even know where the accident was. He was giving me the name of a road exit, but I don't know what that is. And I would imagine that the 911 operator here wouldn't know either unless they had access to some very good mapping. So that can, ultimately, by calling on the radio instead of dialing 911 on a cell phone, can ultimately result in confusion and delay and unnecessarily complicating a response. But absolutely, if GMRS is what you're down to because your battery is dead, or because the cell tower is out, or what have you, by all means.
Where I was going with it, of course, 911 is the first line of the defense for your emergency situations. But just wondering if since I'm new to this, if there was any type of procedure, but you pretty much answered that. So that was pretty much all I have for this evening. I'm just glad to be able to get on the air and talk with everyone, and anxious to hear what everyone else has.
All right, William. Well, we're glad to have you with us this evening, and thank you for that question. And it's a great evening for that kind of topic. So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to Atlanta. Oh, I'm sorry, this was David. If I would check my boxes as I go, I wouldn't lose my place. So, sorry about that, David, but I'm going to go ahead and move on now to Atlanta 555. Dave, and I bet by now his burgers are done. I wonder if he's finished eating them. Dave, Atlanta 555, are you in there?
Yeah, Justin, I'm in here, and for most families, American hamburgers would be enough, but no, not here. Atlanta 554, also referred to as Queen of the Casa, wanted a couple of wings on the side. So while the burgers are sitting here drying out, I'm finishing up a couple of wings, chicken wings, on the grill. So yeah, that's how my night's going.
Fantastic. Well, an American burger is an awesome thing, even when it's overcooked and dry. And honestly, that's kind of how most of the burgers turn out around here when I'm cooking. If I let 947 do it, we end up with some pretty tasty burgers. But if I'm left to the task, yeah, they're going to be dry. But delicious nonetheless. So glad that you're able to enjoy those wings. Might as well. You got the grill going. Might as well cook those up as well. So, Dave, do you have any questions or comments, or how's your week going, and what's going on with you other than burgers?
No, I'm good. I've had a good week. Welcome back, Justin. We're glad you're here. Good that you had a week off last Thursday. And I think I'm going to go eat some dinner. So back to you, Rocket Man.
Fantastic. I appreciate the Rocket Man reference, but we have to yield that to Chattanooga 5-8. He is the original and the true Rocket Man. But very good stuff. All right, Dave. Well, enjoy your dinner, and we'll catch up with you very soon. Next on my list, I've got several in and outs. I have Atlanta 299, Steve from Roswell. Steve had some CW stuff he was going to be doing this evening. I have Atlanta 20, Tom. Tom's going to be enjoying the net from the living room. He's not able to get out very well, so he's in and out tonight. And I have Atlanta 138, Robert in Auburn. Thank you, Robert, for checking in with us tonight. I've got you in a log as in and out, and that will bring me next to Atlanta 285, CV Smith in Murrayville. CV, how you doing this evening?
Atlanta 285, how are you doing, 946? Over.
Well, as the week might go, I think this is about the fourth Monday I've had this week, but it's been a challenging week. I've got some database issues that I'm working on with the railroad, and sometimes when I'm doing these projects, it comes to the point where you fix an error and it generates 2 or 3 more, and then you end up chasing your tail. So my fixing of errors have gone from about a dozen that needed to be fixed to several hundred. And that being the case, I thought it might be a little bit smarter for me to just go ahead and delete all of that work and then go back and start over. So that's what today was. Today was a start over day for me. So I've got about 4 days worth of work that I'm going to try to recreate over today and tomorrow, and hopefully by Monday, when I get into the error correction phase, it'll be a little bit cleaner. We'll see what happens. How about you?
Same stuff this week. Nothing out of the ordinary. Just trolling right along. Sounds like you have a job plus a job. Over.
Yeah. One of them pays a little bit better than the other, but I enjoy them both. Have a lot of fun at both of the jobs that I do, and that's a big part of why I do them. But yeah, certainly one pays a little bit better, and I'll let you all figure out which one has the bigger paycheck. But in any case, I do enjoy the work that I do with the railroad, even when I have to discard several days worth of work. The advantage is that I take really, really good detailed notes. So for me to throw several days worth of work away, I can recreate that in hours and be right back and on track. And sometimes it makes more sense to do that than it does to try to sort out all the various rabbit holes that pop up. And holy cow, it can be crazy. You fix one thing and several other things go crazy because of it. So, but it's a complicated database, and there are many, many pieces stacked upon many, many pieces, and it's pretty amazing what it takes to make a train go down the tracks. But that's what it is. So, all right, CV. Well, enjoy the evening. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to Atlanta 780, and we'll see what Houston's got going on tonight.
Hey, good evening, Justin. Good evening to the rest of the net. Can you copy me on Pine Log, or should I go to Sassafras?
Now, you're a little noisy on Pine Log, but let's give it a try.
Hey, Roger. Okay. Well, I'm listening to Sassafras. Maybe that'll help. I don't know, but okay. No, we've just been tinkering and retuning a few antennas and just tinkering, more or less.
Yeah, all right. Well, I heard you the other day working on turning your antenna. I assume you got a rotor on that antenna. And at one point, you were really, really having a hard time reading you. But then at some point, you got it turned in a way that you were booming into the Pine Log repeater. So is that what you're on right now? Are you on a rotor, a Yagi antenna that's on a rotor?
Hi, Roger. Yes, sir, I am. I can turn it some more, and maybe that will help there. I don't know. I think that's about where I was the last time I talked to you, and it said it was decent.
Oh yeah, it's decent. It's there's some washing in and out, and some noise in there, but I think that everybody's got that tonight. And we've got some stuff going on. There's some solar activity going on that may be a part of that, and there's not a whole lot we're going to do about solar activity. So, but that's interesting stuff, and I know that you've had that rotor for a while now. How much of a difference do you have in rotation between the Pine Log repeater and the Sassafras repeater?
Well, probably not but around 10 degrees. I don't know where I got this other one pointed.
Let me try this one. Is that radio any better? It's on a different antenna.
Well, that radio sounds a little bit louder, but it still has that same washing in and out. So, but I don't think it has anything to do with your station. I think that's just the conditions tonight. So, and you've got a pretty good distance to get to Pine Log. What is your distance to Pine Log? Do you know?
I think the last time I checked it, it was around 62 miles.
Well, I'm pretty sure Pine Log hasn't moved, so unless you have, it's probably still 62 miles. And yeah, that's you're twice as far. You're twice as far to Pine Log as I am to Sassafras. I'm about 30 miles, 31 miles to Sassafras.
Hey, Roger. Yes, sir. Well, maybe one of these days things will get better and we'll get more repeaters in place and be able to hit some of them better. But I think it's kind of like you were saying. It's just conditions right now. Because it seems like everybody's having a little bit of problems that I can receive good on Pine Log. Everybody that's come in, well, most everybody that's come in, you at CV are perfect on it. No question about that. I know I just have a problem hitting it from here.
Yes. Well, that's a pretty good haul, 62 miles, and so I'd say you're doing an excellent job of getting your signal to the repeater. And we do have good audio on you tonight, so yeah. And yeah, I think, like I say, the man behind the curtain is working hard, and there are so many things going on, um, and I'm probably not even supposed to talk about, but I do know that there are new repeater sites that are being currently and actively developed. I do know that we have some new technology that we plan on bringing into play very soon to help with the linking between repeaters, and we are also in development of new link sites. So there's a lot of stuff that's in play, um, and so many of these things, happen over the course of time. It takes a number of meetings, a number of phone calls. It takes coordinating of schedules. It takes making sure that key people are available at key times. There's a lot of things that have to be choreographed to make any of these things happen. So it's a bit of a process, and it's never as fast as we'd like it to be. But there's a lot going on in North Georgia GMRS, and these are exciting times. So very cool stuff. All right, Houston, well, thank you for all of that, and thanks for answering my questions with regards to your station, and that's very interesting. I've always been fascinated with rotors, but I've never really had a good reason to put one on an antenna anywhere, so I've never played with one. But one of these days, next on my list, I have Atlanta 554, Cherie in Marietta. I hope that you are enjoying those wings this evening, and thank you very much for checking in with us tonight. I've got you in and out on the log. And next I have Atlanta 442, Craig in Ackworth. Craig, are you able to stick around with us this evening?
Hey, Justin. Yeah, it's Craig. Good evening to everybody on the net. Yeah, I'm just hanging out here listening. I've been working on my daughter's car and kind of reached a stopping point. So came back in the workshop and just messing with some computer stuff right now. But other than that, all's well here in Ackworth. Glad we didn't get the severe weather that they thought we were going to get. I lived in Tornado Alley for a number of years, and when I was looking at it, I just knew the timing wasn't right. Had it hit here, late afternoon or early afternoon, it probably would have been a different affair. But I think it had just got here when it cooled off and things kind of fizzled out. But yeah, glad it ended up not being a bad deal there for us. And sounds like pretty much across the board, everybody did okay with that as far as on our network, which is good. But yeah, that's pretty much all that's going on here. So that having been said, I'll pass it back to Net Control.
Well, good deal. Glad that that as well that you fared well through the storms. There wasn't much of a storm here either. We had a little bit of wind and we had a little bit of rain, but nothing that would qualify as a severe storm. So good stuff. Now, what's the nature of the work that you're doing on your daughter's car? What's going on there?
She already had her first mishap. Luckily, it didn't involve any other vehicles or property. She hit a curb pretty hard and it bent the lower strut mount where it bolts to the steering knuckle. And so her car looked like it had severe camber on that right side. And I was trying to replace it last weekend, but come to find out the upper strut mount was bent slightly also, and I hadn't pre-ordered that part. So I had to order that and wait for it to come in. So a buddy of mine has a spring compressor, and we're going to swap the strut cartridges out on Saturday morning, and then I can get it all buttoned back up.
Well, I'm glad that you're able to replace those strut mounts and that it's not something, frame related. That sounds like that could be a tough problem. When I was a kid, I had a 1974 Plymouth Duster. I think that's what that car was. And we were turning around in a parking lot, and it was a gravel parking lot, and there was a concrete apron that came out from a large building. And the apron had, about 8 inches of rise from, the grade of the parking lot to the floor of the building. It's a big farm building, combines and tractors and big farm machinery in and out of that. And so I'm turning around in this gravel parking lot, and I didn't realize that concrete had a curb to it. I thought it was all one plain surface. And man, when I hit the edge of that slab, it crushed that first cross member underneath the engine and pulled everything back and absolutely ruined that car. But for about a day and a half, every place we drive that car, it would howl and scream and going down the road because those tires were so far out of alignment. And it was really, really hard to drive at anything over about 15 or 20 mile an hour. But I drove that thing for a couple of days before we got it to the junkyard, and I got another one.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, luckily aside from I know it now that it damaged the upper strut mount, but the frame is good. I just trial fit the new one and it fits right in there perfect. But the lower part of the strut where it bolts to the steering knuckle, it's been about 15 degrees.
Wow.
Which of course, once you get the wheel on there, it looks much more exaggerated. And unfortunately, she tried driving it and tried turning it, to the all the way to the left. And the tire was actually scrubbing the upper part of the strut, but when she turned it, it was scrubbing the whole inner fender well. And unfortunately, that's where the ABS harness is kind of stowed away there against the inner fender well, and it just totally severed it, just totally frayed it out. So I had to replace that also. And it's all good to go, and got all her codes and everything cleared and back to normal on the dash. So it's just down to the strut replacement now. But I decided to go ahead and get a strut, new isolators and all that good stuff, and upper bearing for the other side also. I thought I'd just go ahead and do them in pairs. I might as well. But yeah, fun stuff. And the good news is now she sees how involved this all was, and hopefully she'll drive a little bit more carefully. Back to net control.
Yes, and hopefully a lesson learned in regards to just careful driving in general. Being without a car for a period of time and the expense and time to get her car repaired. Sometimes we just need to slow down and be careful. There's plenty of time to do it right, but taking the time out to fix things sometimes is not always convenient. Thank you for all that, Craig. It was great talking with you, and that's going to bring me next to Atlanta 417, William in Auburn. William was in and out with us this evening. Thanks, William, for checking in. Glad to hear from you. And we also have Atlanta 102, Mike in Woodstock. Mike was also in and out with us tonight, but it's great to hear from you, Mike. And that brings me next to our Rocket Man, the original Rocket Man, Chattanooga 5'8", Bill from Lookout Mountain. And Bill is also in and out with us this evening. And that will bring me to Atlanta 5'7", Andrew in Holly Springs. Andrew, what's happening?
evening, Justin and everyone in the net. Quiet night over here. So it's a good and bad thing, I guess you could say. Anna, Atlanta 5-6, and the wife are doing a filming down in the Stone Mountain area. So they've been gone for roughly about the past week, give or take. Anna did get to participate shortly on the last week, but she's been doing a lot of filming with something that has to do with Disney. I don't even know what it is, so it's not like I can let any details go because I don't know any. But other than that, it's just me, my son, and my brother-in-law hanging out. Quiet over here, which is definitely very, very different here at Club 215. That's all I've got. Back to net control.
Well, fantastic. And I think that we're all looking forward to the premiere of Anna, Montana. I think that's going to be great stuff, and we know that there's star material there. So that's fantastic. And, you know, peaceful, quiet evening with the guys, man, that's great. That's great stuff. I don't get that very often. So usually my peaceful, quiet nights are filled with dogs and a wife and walks, and that's about as peaceful as it gets around here. But good stuff, Andrew, and good to hear from you. And look forward to catching up with you again real soon. Next on my list is Atlanta 410 Glenn in Canton. Glenn, how you doing this evening? You have any questions or comments for the net?
Atlanta 410. No questions or comments, just listening in and seeing what's going on out there. But I was just driving home earlier when I checked in, and I got home, ate a few leftovers. I've got a better unit out in my vehicle, so I'm out. Had taken the dogs for a quick walk, so I'm sitting out in my driveway with two 80-pound dogs in the front of my truck. Over.
Oh, and I'll bet they're just dying for you to take them for a ride anywhere. We had a German Shepherd, and if you opened up a vehicle, he'd jump in, and he didn't care if you went anywhere or not. He just wanted to hang out in the car. We could be out working in the yard, and at that time I had a GMC Yukon XL, and the back hatch was pretty much his. And so anytime we'd open that up, he'd leap up into it and just lay down and just chill for hours. He just loved being in the car. So dogs and cars are kind of a cool thing that way. So, yeah, I think that while they're sitting there and while you're on the radio, you definitely should turn the key in the ignition and at least take a drive around the block and a little 5-10 minute ride. They'll love it. So, thanks for listening in tonight, Glenn. Glad to have you along with us, and look forward to catching up with you again real soon. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 124 Hank in Marietta. Hopefully we can hear you a little bit better this time, Hank. And what have you got going on? Any questions or comments for the net?
Shout out to 420 William and 780 Houston. Set me up with my first GMRS equipment. And I'm just playing around with it and a couple of different antennas, trying to see what I can do here.
Well, you sound a lot better this time than what we heard earlier, so that's good stuff. Nice, clean, clear signal. So Atlanta 780, and who was the other one that you had mentioned?
William 420.
Fantastic, William 420. Got you headed in the right direction, and yeah, I think you can't go wrong with Atlanta 780. He's got a lot of knowledge, and sometimes you can get it out of him. So that's good stuff. Glad to hear you on the air. Do you have any other questions or comments for the net?
No, this is my first time to check in. And
oh, fantastic.
I'm just checking it out.
Well, that's great stuff. Well, I'm glad to have you in the mix, and it's great to hear from you. And definitely stick around. Look forward to hearing from you again very soon. So thank you for that check-in. Next on my list is Noonan25 Joe in Fayetteville. Joe is in and out with us this evening. Probably right about now he's getting set up for that ISS, International Space Station pass overhead, getting ready to transmit his APRS packets. And if anybody is equipped to pick those up, I know he would love to hear from you if you're able to hear or decode his APRS packets. So with that, if that's something that you're interested in doing, you can definitely monitor us while you get ready to monitor that. Next on my list is Atlanta 948, Gary in Woodstock. Gary is also in and out with us this evening. Oh, look at that. I missed someone. Let me go back and pick up Atlanta 26, Flip in the beautiful Druid Hills. Flip, how you doing this evening?
Good evening, everybody. Yeah, I was wondering if we would be able to see the ISS overhead, but I think there's too many clouds in the sky. But yeah, everything's good here. Last week Governor Shotgun allowed people of my age to come get the vaccine. So this morning I went up and got shot number 1. So I'm pretty excited about that. And then I got back and tuned into the radio, and I wasn't hearing anything for a while. And then I realized that I had woken up last night worried about the storm, and so I unplugged my antenna, which is why I wasn't hearing anything. So I plugged it back in, and all is good. Hope you're doing well. Atlanta 20.
And therein lies the challenge. You turn the radio on, forgetting about the fact that you've disconnected the antenna, and then you start calling out for radio checks. Can anybody hear my radio? Can anybody hear my radio? Well, without an antenna on there, probably no one will hear it ever again. But I'm glad that didn't happen, and that you came to your awareness. Do you have anything that you can set on your radio or near your radio to help you to remember that the antenna is disconnected? A red bandana, a cigarette lighter, a coffee mug upside down, some kind of a visual cue so that you'll know that when that coffee mug is sitting there, it's because the antenna is disconnected.
Well, I probably should do something like that. Usually I just kind of listen for traffic before I chime in, and I wasn't hearing a single thing, so I knew something was up.
Well, you're probably smarter than I am, because I can't tell you how many times I'd turn a radio on and grab the mic and start yammering, only to let off of the mic and realize I've just stepped on somebody else's QSO. But, yeah, that's definitely a better practice. Don't be like me. Well, yeah, I suppose. But at least you got your system back up and running and sounding fantastic. Are you done with antenna work now? And when are we going to put the polyphasers in?
Well, that is a good question. And no, I don't think you're ever done with your antenna work. But yeah, I do need to buy those polyphasers, or there's another one that's very similar that I like too, that I may do, that would work well. So that's probably next on the list amongst many other things on the priority list. So yeah, but things are good. Yeah, to be vaccinated partially. I go back for my number 2 in April, and that should be good too, and that'll make me have a little more confidence.
Yeah, well, the word that I'm hearing is that the number 2 shot makes you feel like number 2 for about 2 days. So I hope that that's not the case, and that when you get that second injection, you sail right on through it without any interruption. But I'm hearing that when you get your second shot, you need to plan on not having too much going on the next couple of days. So bear that in mind, and hopefully you can plan a couple of days of rest and relaxation, whether you need them or not, and go from there. But good luck with that. And yes, the shots are being opened up for a wider group of people, and I think as more and more people become vaccinated, I think that we'll see a lot more participation in life and be able to move past this current chapter that we're in. So, all right, Flip. Well, good stuff, and we'll definitely catch up with you again here real soon. And yeah, next time you want to do net control, I would love to have you fill the seat and do that anytime you like. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 76 David. David was at work with us this evening, checking in and out, but hopefully he's able to continue monitoring in. And with that, I just want to say thanks, David, for checking in. And that brings me next to Atlanta 250, Tim in Canton. Tim is also in and out with us this evening, but thank you, Tim, for checking in, and hope that you're monitoring and that all is going well. That brings me next to the other Tim in Stockbridge, McDonough 22. Tim, how you doing this evening?
I'm in an alternate location tonight and under a metal roof, so do you have a pretty good copy on me?
Actually, we do. So I think you should just go right on ahead, just like you're in your living room.
Hey, Roger. Thank you for that. I am still trying to get used to the fact I try to watch the repeater lights up before I start talking, but so I never know quite when to start. But anyway, not a whole lot to report from the Stockbridge side of town this week. It's been raining. My work was outside, so I got to work on Monday, and pretty much been sitting around in the house most of the rest of the week, resting and taking care of household chores and listening to the radio a little bit at a time when I ordinarily wouldn't have been able to. So I've been able to give a few radio checks and talk to some of our new guys that come on and that are setting up their stations and putting up antennas and doing so forth and so on. And how much Mr. Houston and a couple of the others have helped 420 and helping some of the new guys. So it's really great to hear, everybody pulling together to help the new guys coming on board and getting situated. And remember how difficult it was for me when I first started, getting all my stuff together and knowing what to do and what not to do. So it's always a pleasure to help the others out and see everybody pitching in. And also just want to mention, you're talking about the guy behind the curtain there. So just want to say Doug, a little quick word of praise for him and all the hard work that he does. And just when we look at some of the other Facebook pages and some of the other people around the country that are not quite so fortunate as we are here in North Georgia, we are really blessed to have what we have here with this great setup and all the repeaters we have access to and more, as you say, coming online. So just want to get that out there and say thanks to all the hard work that goes on behind the scenes there, Roger.
Yes, indeed. And I've been monitoring this week, and I've heard you give a lot of those radio checks, and that's the challenge that I have is when I'm working. I like to be able to hear the radio, but it's a very big temptation for me to come on and yammer on it all day long, and I really try hard to resist that. I do end up coming on once or twice a day during the workday. I think I can justify a few minutes of break time here and there, but I don't want to abuse that privilege, and so it is nice just being able to hear. And I've heard a lot of conversations throughout the week and throughout the past several weeks, and that's one thing that I do appreciate about this group is that there's a camaraderie, a willingness to help. We definitely have a group of people that want to see new members come along and succeed and get their radios working well and participate. And I very much enjoy hearing the new members as well. And that's one thing I think that I appreciate the most about this group is that we have a group of foundational members that they're at their core they're here to serve, and that service is apparent, and I think that's what a lot of the new folks are finding very attractive about this group. So that's good stuff, Tim. And I also want to thank you for your comments with regard to the man behind the curtain, because I can tell you for sure, for a retired guy, he's working pretty hard. He's been putting in a lot of hours, uh, and he's been putting in a lot of effort. And I've seen some of it firsthand. I'm aware of a lot of it because of telephone conversations and schedules and emails and things of that nature. And um, for a retired guy, he's a machine. Man, he works hard. I don't want to have to work that hard when I retire. Um, I don't think he's working hard because he wants to work hard. I think he's working hard because he enjoys providing a service to this community. And there again, that's one of the things that 947 and I recognized when we came here, was that there was a sense of service, and that's something that we find very attractive, and that we want to be a part of, and that we want to contribute to in whatever way that we can is service. So thank you for that, Tim. I really appreciate your comments this evening. Next on my list, I have Noonan 29 Marty in Tyrone. Marty is in and out with us this evening. I've also heard Marty on the air several times this week on the Madras repeater, and just want to say it's great hearing you over there as well, Marty, and hope that you have a great evening. Also on my list, I have Atlanta 402 Todd incoming. Todd is in and out with us this evening. Thank you, Todd, for checking in. Great to hear from you. And that brings me next to Chattanooga 67, Ed in Chattanooga. Ed, what do you have going on in Chattanooga, and do you have any questions or comments for the net?
This is Chat 67. Negative. Nothing going on. It's very calm. I'm just glad we all came through the weather event unscathed. It was rather ominous the way the weather forecasters were talking, and I'm glad that everybody was spared what we had just about this time here in Chattanooga last eastern side of the city had some heavy damage with a lot of losses and property damage and injuries. And of course, anything that has to do with life, injuries, or death is the most serious part of the whole equation. With that said, pleasure listening, and Chat 67 will be clear.
Yes, indeed, Ed. That is very true. Anytime we have weather events that result in property loss or injuries or the loss of loved ones, that can be just devastating in so many ways. And although personally I've never experienced a tornado firsthand, we've had lots of conversations this week about it. And one conversation that I had, Atlanta 948's brother lost a home to a tornado. And what a fascinating story that they saw the tornado coming. They live on a rise, and so they immediately ran for an interior closet in the house. And when the storm passed, that's all of the house that was left. Everything was gone. Everything. The house was gone. The contents were gone. Everything was gone. Gary's brother and his wife survived, thankfully, and so that's irreplaceable. The house obviously could be rebuilt and was, but holy cow, just an unimaginable circumstance to find yourself in. And we are very fortunate when these weather events are less severe than forecasted. Sometimes I wonder if the forecasters kind of drum things up a little bit just to draw in a little bit of panic and a little bit of viewership. But in any case, we just have to be thankful that we were spared from any of that misery this time around. Thank you for your comments, Ed. It's great to have you hanging out with us, and look forward to talking with you more in the coming weeks. Next on my list is Atlanta 308 Dan in Marietta. Dan, do you have any questions or comments for the net?
I actually might ask the first question. I've been sitting here watching this linked repeater map for the first time tonight during the net, and even though the ball ground repeaters evidently not linked, every time we talk it lights up. Just curious what that was all about. Maybe learn a little bit more about the difference in the linked and non-linked repeaters and how you think about that.
Well, that is an excellent question, and I think the best way that I can answer that is that the device that handled the linking for ball ground is currently sitting on a test bench at the Heathkit radio shop, and it is passing traffic and data and operational testing because its new home is going to be Blue Ridge. So that's why we're seeing activity from that device at this time. It's just going through some testing processes, and we're watching data as it moves through the device and that sort of thing. So the next step is going to be to locate that device up at Blue Ridge. But before we can do that, we have to get connectivity for the device at Blue Ridge. So there's a couple of things that are brewing to make that happen. But you know, we've got several moving parts that have to kind of come into play before we can do that. So we're a few weeks away, I think, from having the Blue Ridge site linked. But once we get that linked, we'll get that device renamed to Blue Ridge instead of Ball Ground, and we'll take it out of its testing mode and put it in a working fashion so that it only activates when it is receiving traffic like the other devices do. So that's what's going on with that thing. And let me break here for a quick second. I've got this cough button. See, when I let off of the key and I cough, you don't hear me cough on the radio. But the poor folks that are listening on YouTube have to endure that. So, but I've got this new cough button that I can push to mute my microphone into the YouTube stream, and I just have to remember to do that when I have a cough come up. So it's enough for me to say, let me break, and then while I'm off of the key, take a cough. But that only helps you guys. So anyway, as I was saying, the other part of your question was, you know, how do the repeaters, what's the difference between a linked repeater and a non-linked repeater? That really boils down to the linking network itself. So anytime that you are able to access any one of the linked repeaters, your signal is being immediately rebroadcast on all of the linked repeaters. And vice versa, anytime that you make a transmission on a non-linked repeater, then that repeater operates in a standalone fashion, which means it's only repeating from that particular station. And there are benefits to both situations. Like, for instance, Ball Ground gets probably more use now than it did when it was linked. And I think a lot of that is because there are people that want to be able to use a repeater, but don't necessarily want their traffic rebroadcast all over the entirety of North Georgia. And so there are some advantages sometimes when you can have a small coverage repeater that just covers your immediate area. And if you're just trying to have a conversation with someone else that's in your immediate area, then that's enough. But, you know, as it stands now, if I want to talk to Ed in Chattanooga or Bill in Chattanooga, the only way that I can do that is through the linked repeater network. There's no way for my radio to reach from here all the way to Chattanooga. So I hope that answers your question. Did you have anything to follow up with?
No, that all makes sense, and I agree. I could see the benefits of a good mix of the local, we'll call it, or unlinked repeaters, and the ability to get on and reach out through the linked ones too. No, I'm good. I'm hopefully coming through loud and clear. New antenna on. Thanks, McDonough 2210 for the radio check today, and it's been a pleasure learning from everybody and trying to get better every week here. That's it for me.
Well, indeed, your signal is great. Your audio is very clean. Now, I'm hearing that washing that we're hearing, I think, with just about everybody tonight. It kind of a sloshy noise that comes in and out and in. It's like the waves breaking on the beach. But we're hearing that with everybody, so I don't think there's anything you can do with your station that's going to fix that. I think it's just something that we're going to have to endure for the next period as this solar activity affects our propagation. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 77 Steve in Lawrenceville. Steve, have you got any questions or comments for the net tonight?
Yeah, how you doing tonight, Justin, and all the other members? This is my second time joining the net, and like I mentioned last time when I joined, fairly new to radio communications, and I've been getting more involved volunteering with the Civil Air Patrol and their communications. And I know quite a few of the members are ham radio licensed operators. And I'm going to be going to one of the classes at one of the local amateur radios, cram class in the exam, trying to get my tech rating. One thing I found interesting this week, first sat in on one of the Civil Air Patrol national nets on the HF frequency on certain meter. We tune our radios to a channel, and so I don't necessarily know the frequency yet. As I learn more, or I will. But what I found very interesting was one of the radio operators that's in the backyard right here in Georgia. I could barely hear her, but it was crystal clear hearing other radio operators all across the country. Minnesota out to Nevada was perfectly clear, but right in the backyard I just couldn't hear it. So I've got a lot to learn about radio communications, and GMRS is my first step in doing that. So, yep, back to you.
That is a perfect example of the difference in the way HF radio propagates versus UHF radio. So yes, there are some fascinating things to learn, and how the different bands behave and how they can bounce off of different atmospheric levels or conditions, or the stratosphere, and there are just different layers of the atmosphere that can affect the different wavelengths or different frequency bands of signals differently. So and that can affect how they propagate across large distances or short distances. So very cool stuff, and yeah, it's a fascinating science. It's a fascinating thing to study and learn, and there's no end to it. Even advanced hams will tell you, extra class hams will tell you that they learn new stuff all the time. So one word that I would offer, and this is based on my experience because I didn't know, no one told me. When I went to take the test for my technician license, I used hamstudy. Was it .org or .com? I don't remember. I think it's .com. Hamstudy, one word. And it's an app that you can put on your phone, or you can just use it as a web service. If you have an account, it's free. And if you have an account, it'll keep track of your progress. It'll give you test questions. It was a great study tool for me. But I had no idea that when you go to take your technician test, when you pass that, they typically will immediately offer the general test to you. And had I known that I was going to have the opportunity to take the general immediately following the technician, if I would have spent just a little bit of time studying some of that material, I might have gotten my general at the same sitting as my tech, because I only missed that test by one question. So that's my advice, is focus on your technician material and don't wait for the ham class. Start studying now. The cram classes are good because it gives you a lot of information in a short period of time that your short-term memory should be able to carry you through to take the test. But I really think that if you start studying ahead of that, that material will make a lot more sense to you as you go through the class, and will have more meaning when you take the test. And if you spend a little bit of time studying for the general in addition to studying for the extra, I think there's a really, really good chance that you'll get it. And the difference in privileges between technician and general are huge. So if you want to do HF work, you really need that general. So good luck with that. And if you have any questions as to where you can take your test, it sounds like you're hanging out with a bunch of hams, and they will guide you through that process. But if you have any questions, definitely reach out to us either here on the radio or on our Facebook page, because we have plenty of hams in the group here that would love to help you out with that. And we do offer free ham radio testing at the Heathkit Radio Shop. So if that's something that interests you or anyone else, feel free to ask, and we'll get you some information, and we'll find out when the next session is going to be. So good stuff. Thank you for that. Where am I at? Was that? I've lost track of where I'm at again. Stand by one moment while I figure out what I'm doing.
I'm going to take that advice, absolutely. I have been studying for my tech license using one of those apps, and that's really been very useful. I've been reading the ham radio study guides and taking that test pretty much, once or twice a week for a few months, and I'm a little ashamed to say that early on my scores were down in the 30s. I aced the electronics part of it, but everything radio related, antenna related, process and procedure related, I struggled on. But over time, I see my score, so you can see your scores live, going from 30, 40, 50, 60, and pretty much every time I take the test, I would pass it. I'm up into the 80s now.
Fantastic.
But that is really good advice about studying a little bit more for that general. I'm going to get right on that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. And yeah, no one told me. So had I known, it might have made a difference. It might not have, but it might have. So good luck with that. I hope that you're successful in that endeavor. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on. Next on my list is Atlanta 77, Steve in Lawrenceville. Steve, have you got any comments or questions for the net?
Deja vu, that is me again. I think you want to go to the next row, probably. Over.
Okay, all right. For some reason, I had it in my mind that I was talking with Dan, and sorry about that, Steve. Okay, yeah, if I would just use the tools that are available to me right in front of me, then we wouldn't have this problem. But clearly, I didn't. So my apologies. With that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to Atlanta 172. Greg in Bremen. Greg is probably in and out with us this evening, but we're going to see if he's there and if he has any questions or comments for the net. Greg, are you hanging out with us? Okay, so very oftentimes Greg checks in and out with us this evening. There was a little bit of an interruption when he checked in, and I didn't hear all of it, so I must have just missed that. So I've got him in the log as in and out at this time, and so this is the end of the log at this moment. We'll go ahead and open up the floor for any comments or questions, and we'll take additional check-ins. Net control standing by.
Newton 80 to net control. WRHS 306.
Noonan 80. Hey, Michael, go ahead.
Hey, Jeff. Let's do a late check-in. I apologize. I forgot what time it was. And listening to the net and everything, and I just want to do a quick check-in and out. So, good net, you guys. Good net tonight, and thanks. I'm all go ahead and back out of here. WR06.
All right, Michael, and I've got you in the log, and I've got you in here as in and out. But before I let you sneak away, you had posed, I believe it was you that had posed a question about grounding on Facebook this week. Do you feel like you got a good answer out of that, or do you still have questions with regards to that?
Yeah, I had a good. It took me a minute to really understand it, but I have a good understanding of it now. I just have to get the fuses or whatever for my homebrew repeater, especially with all these storms coming through. That's what was my biggest concern, was a direct lightning hit and damaging my repeater system. And I remember you telling me, I just cannot remember the coax, between the coax and the radio. Lightning. For the most part, yeah, I don't know anything about it. So far, I'm tracking along. Over.
Well, good stuff, Michael. And we kind of, it was a lot of chop in and out of there. So you were coming and going into the repeater for part of that. But understand that you couldn't remember what the device was called. That device is called a polyphaser, or generically it's a lightning arrestor. Polyphaser is a brand name, and it's the one that I prefer. And you definitely want that. So there's a couple of schools of thought there. Typically, you want your polyphaser installed at the place where the cable enters the building. And in a lot of installations, you'll find that there are polyphasers mounted both at the entrance to the building and at the place where the cable goes into the cabinet where the radio is. Now, on a railroad, we use the entrance to the building as the location for the polyphaser on all of our radio installs, and then on our microwave sites, the lightning arrestor is kind of built into the cable entrance. So it's all a big bulkhead that incorporates lots of copper strapping and grounding right there at that bulkhead, and the bulkhead connectors for the waveguides are lightning arrestors of a sort, because what they do is they squeeze the path for the RF into a smaller space. So if there is any lightning energy in that, it's more likely to shunt to ground and go out that path. So ultimately, the goal with lightning protection is to create a low resistance path to ground, and you do that by grounding your mast, and by grounding your coax, and by providing a lightning arrestor, so that the center conductor of the coax ends up shunting to ground as well. And if your path to ground is a lower resistance to the ground rod than it is through your radio, then hopefully you'll save the radio. But a direct hit really doesn't abide by any of the rules related to grounding. It kind of does what it wants. But for the most part, we get a lot of inductance from an indirect hit. If lightning strikes nearby, it can still create a lot of induced voltage in our exposed conductors, and that induced voltage can be very damaging to equipment. So that's what we're trying to kill in your typical lightning strike, is trying to kill that induced voltage from an indirect strike. Let me break. The other thing that you want to consider with grounding is RF grounding. And what I mean by that is you want to have a ground field that your antenna can work against, that it has some leverage to push signal out against. And having an effective ground field can make a big difference in how well your signal propagates. So if all you have done is driven a single ground rod, you probably have a pretty good ground, and you probably have a good assurance against lightning damage. But when you look at some of these books and they talk about grounding for RF, they talk about a thing called radials. And that becomes a completely different matter, because now what we're doing is we're burying copper wire in the ground to create a ground field or a ground network for the antenna structure. And one thing that I've just recently learned is that it's possible for the ground elements, the radials, to be too long, depending on the frequency of the signal that you're propagating and the size of your tower. You can have an impact negatively if your radials end up being too long. So something that I definitely need to study some more on. Moron? Yeah, this moron needs to study about radials. and I definitely need to understand that better. But yes, lightning protection, definitely. It's one thing to disconnect your antennas, but when you're comfortable with your level of lightning protection, you'll go ahead and operate even during the severe weather. I never disconnect my antennas here. So thank you for that, Michael. Do we have any additional questions, comments, or late check-ins? Net Control standing by.
Net Control, this is Atlanta 550, WRGN 906, Steve in Talking Rock. Over.
Atlanta 550, Steve in Talking Rock. I've got you in the log, and you are next up. So do you have any questions or comments for the net?
Your discussion there with lightning strikes, it just made me remember something from a long time ago, having to stand in intersections and direct traffic while new lights were being installed. I asked one time why the coil was made near the light.
Ah, good stuff.
And the tech that was putting the light in advised me that that was done that way. It was coiled to keep the lightning from traveling directly into it. Now, in your opinion, is that right or wrong?
Well, as I said, one of the goals for controlling lightning in a circuit like that is to create a low impedance path to ground. And so it makes sense that coil near the signal head would offer a higher impedance path. That being the case, yeah, I would agree with that. Putting that coil in that wire right there near the signal head would make the lightning probably more likely to travel back towards the case where it can be properly arrested and routed to ground. The instrument case, I would think, would have all of the lightning arresters in it for all of the wires that are strung overhead, and all of those would have some level of protection. I know on a railroad, when a cable enters a case, the first thing that it terminates into is a panel full of lightning arresters. So even though in a lot of cases those cables are in the ground, sometimes those cables are connected to things like railroad rails, and so we have several miles of potential lightning strike. And so before that cable can do anything inside of the instrument house, we want to try to arrest any lightning strikes on those rails and shunt that to ground right away. And I can't tell you how many times I go out on a trouble call and open up a case and have, the smoke that's 2 or 3 hours old still hanging out in the case and billow out when I open the door, and you can smell all the burnt lightning arresters. So you know that for the next 20 minutes you're going to be changing lightning arresters, and that's a lot easier than some of the other troubles that you might find when you open a case. But yeah, I think I would agree with that theory of making a coil by the signal lamp.
Okay, well, that's good. I kind of thought maybe it may have been pulled by the leg, Another thing, anybody that works with electricity knows that the whole endeavor there is to keep the smoke inside the thing. Never let the smoke out.
The magic smoke. Yes, it's tough to get the smoke back in. That can be very, very difficult to do. And I've let the smoke out of more than one device. And that's embarrassing when it happens. And by golly, but it happens. And all you can do is try to learn and move on.
Appreciate the information on that, and a good laugh anytime you let the smoke out. You know, you're always embarrassed by that because you're supposed to know what you're doing, but I don't, you know, so I let it out on a continuous basis. But at any rate, I appreciate your answers on it. I'm glad that we didn't get any bad storm damage or anything like that, and hope that we continue on in this. So with that, WRJN 906, Atlanta 550, Steve and Talking Rock, I'm clear.
All right, Steve, I've got you checked out of the log as well, so thank you for that, and appreciate you checking in and your comments. Do we have any other comments? Net Control standing by.
Morning with a comment. This is Atlanta 141, WRKS 900, Ken and Big Canoe checking in.
Okay, I think I heard a couple of people with comments, and then I also heard Atlanta 141 Ken in Big Canoe. So I want to go to Ken first and get Ken's check in here, and any questions or comments that Ken might have, and then we'll go back and open the floor for those comments. So don't let me forget about that. Ken, what have you got happening in Big Canoe?
So I'm standing on my front porch with my little handheld, and I'm looking straight across at Mount Oglethorpe, which is 3 miles just west of my house here. And I was wondering, are there any repeaters up on Oglethorpe?
There is at Mount Oglethorpe, there is a big FAA installation for the Hartsville-Jackson Airport. I don't know specifically what that equipment does or what it's for, but there's a large area there that's fenced off with the signs that say, you know, federal penalty if you press this fence or if you touch this thing or if you cross this line. I don't remember what it says, but it's a big scary sign, and I think it means keep out. And then there's also a smaller cluster of a couple of structures there that like garden sheds, and I think there's an AM and an FM, or maybe they're both FM radio stations that broadcast from Mount Oglethorpe. If you ever get over that way, and for anybody that has driven up to the Sassafras site to look around, if you continue on down that road, there is a park that's called the Eagles Rest, and it is a Boy Scouts facility. And it's a beautiful park, and they have built a series of platforms that you can walk, that you can hike out to from a parking area, and it's a short hike. It's a fat guy friendly hike. It's not something that is only for the fit and well kept. But you can go out onto these platforms, and you can see for tens of miles. You can see a long, long way there at Mount Oglethorpe, and it's beautiful. Every time that 947 and I have gone, there's been this blue overcast haze that kind of limits our vision. We did go one time when it was clear, and oh my golly, was that just a sight to behold. Don't know what I was looking at, but it was far, far, far away, and it was just amazing how many mountaintops you could see off into the distance. So Mount Oglethorpe has a pretty good advantage in terms of elevation over some of those other peaks in that region. So that's the same road that you would find our sassafras repeater on. So does that answer your question, Ken?
It does. I was just wondering because, like I said, I'm on my little handheld here, and I get pretty good reception up there. So I'm only about 3 miles from Oglethorpe, so I'm probably what, 4 or 5 miles from the sassafras repeater.
Yeah, I think that's probably fairly accurate. If I'm picturing Big Canoe geographically correctly, I think that's about right. So, yeah, you definitely are hitting sassafras very, very well with that handheld, and that's good stuff. But yeah, as far as I know, there are no repeaters, at least none of ours, on Mount Oglethorpe. There are ham radio repeaters all over the place on that ridge line leading up to Mount Oglethorpe, but actually on that mountain, I don't believe there are. Okay, so there were comments hanging out there that I haven't gotten to, so let me break for those. It sounds like there was more than one, so careful, guys, that you don't double.
This is Atlanta 420 with a comment. I'll let the other one come in there. Over.
Okay, Atlanta 420, we're not hearing the other one, so maybe it was just you twice. But in any case, go ahead with your comment.
Roger that. I was out here listening to the net there and also trying to monitor on the ISS. I was listening on the 145.80. Did not catch anything, and that was kind of disappointing. I was hoping to hear at least maybe some QSOs or some APRS there. I did switch down also to the 14449, and I could hear some APRS that was being sent out. So I moved a little bit further down to the 14520. But if any of the members...
All right, William. I think the last that we heard was that you moved down to the 145.20, or was it 5.52? I'm not really sure what you said. In any case, that's the last that we heard. You were kind of coming and going there. Do you want to try that again?
Roger that. Changed my location there. Yeah, I just tried the monitor on the 14580 and then the transmitting on the 145 I think 20 there. But I could only hear sending out APRS that was coming from the transmitting on the Earth there, but I didn't hear anything as it went over there. So I guess atmospheric conditions did have an effect there. Over.
Yeah, they may have, and I've had mixed results with satellite passes. Sometimes I've been able to get into them and hear them, and piece of cake, and other times not so much. So I don't have any of the fancy satellite tracking antennas. Now, Noonan 2.5 has the coolest thing I've ever seen, and it's an antenna. It's a pair of Yagi antennas on a single boom. So it has a UHF Yagi for the uplink and a VHF Yagi for the downlink, and it has two separate coax cables that come off of the antenna that you can plug into two different radios. So Joe's got a setup where he's got a headset, and he can set his radio up with Vox so that he doesn't need a push to talk, and he can talk into his headset and transmit while he's manually aiming his dual band directional antenna, and track the satellites that way, and he can listen through the headphones in that headset. And it's a neat setup. It's a very cool antenna. Both of the elements are on opposite planes of the four-sided beam, so it's like a square rod or a square tube aluminum beam with round elements, and the UHF is on opposite sides in one plane, and then 90 degrees from that is the VHF, and it's a neat antenna, and it's a great idea to be able to specifically use the repeaters that's on those satellites and on the space station. So neat stuff, and thanks for your comments there, William, and hope that anybody else that tried had a little better success, but would be a challenging night tonight for sure. Okay, so with that, one last call for check-ins and comments, and we're going to wrap this thing up. Okay, hearing no additional comments and no additional check-ins, we're going to go ahead and conclude the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. Tonight we had a total of 33 check-ins. I know it says 34, but if you look at the log, there's no 21. So we had 33 check-ins, including myself. This concludes this evening's net. Everyone who signed in should sign out. Oh, we're going to be returning the repeaters back to normal use. I forgot to say that. So thanks for hanging out with us this evening, and thanks for allowing me to serve as your net control. Good night, everyone. This is Atlanta 946, WQIR 514, and I'm clear. Okay.
Atlanta 946, Atlanta 285, WRKM 234.
Atlanta 285, Atlanta 946.
But just wanted to let you know how much we appreciate the work you put into the net meeting every Thursday night. And we know that Atlanta 60, the man behind the curtain, is working hard to do a lot of good.
Thank you for those comments, CV. And yes, Atlanta 60 has been working really hard here lately, putting in a lot of hours, putting in a lot of effort. So I definitely appreciate you acknowledging that. And thanks also for your comments with regard to the net. Hopefully we can continue to provide a net that is interesting and entertaining for everyone who participates. So thanks again. Net control, I'll be clear.
Atlanta 285, WRKM 234, clear.
Okay, YouTube folks, I'm going to bring those radios down, and I'm going to thank all of you for hanging out with us this evening. And looks like the stream says no data. We lost the stream at some point, and no one told me. Okay, I have a recording, so hopefully I can post that, and we can get that recovered. But yeah. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll look forward to catching up with all of you again very, very soon. Atlanta 946 WQIR 514. I'll be clear, standing by.